welcome to Turn the Page, the official podcast of the Syosset Public Library.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Turn the Page. I'm your host today, Jen, and I am joined by the author of an absolutely gorgeous and touching work of historical fiction. If you are a fan of the Brontë sisters, this is absolutely one that should be on your to-read list, and I am so excited to talk about it. Welcome. Could I ask you to introduce yourself and your book, please?
Hi, thank you very much for hosting me. I'm really excited to be here. So my book is called The Man in the Stone Cottage. I can explain to you a little bit later why it's called that. It's about the Brontë sisters, particularly Charlotte and Emily, when they were writing Wuthering Heights and Jane Eyre. I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Stephanie. I'm a native New Yorker. Love Long Island. My sister lives there. I'm the author of 7 books so far. I specialize in books about people in the arts. I wrote one about Claude Monet, one about Mozart, and things that I love very, very dearly. And as I said, I've lived in my same apartment where you now see me, or don't see me, for most of my life. So, and I was an opera singer before I was a writer. So.
Yeah, such an interesting journey. And I'm so interested in, how you have focused on the lives of artists, especially through various periods of history. What do you feel like drew you to the past as a setting that you wanted to bring alive?
Oh, golly. Well, first of all, both my parents were artists. And so I grew up not in my house, when you grew up, what did you want to be? You wanted to be something in the arts. We never conceived of being a lawyer or a doctor or one of those things like that. It was always the arts. And I'm sorry, what was the second part? I went off there.
Oh, sure. What drew you to wanting to write about history?
Oh, history. Well, I just loved history I actually think probably the first thing I ever read was The Prince and the Pauper by Mark Twain. And I was fascinated. I don't know. It seemed so mysterious. It seemed sort of safe. It seemed I wanted to create other worlds, other people. And I was very fascinated by certain things of the past. And I still am, passing by an old stairway in York, England, or the streets of Paris or something. My mind fills with characters right away. That's kind of what I do. And I love it dearly. I love the periods. I have so many research books and can't bring myself to give any away. So
I'm curious, when you are encountering a new research topic, well, first, I guess, what comes first? Is the idea for the novel, or is it the research interest, if that makes sense as a question?
I have to be very interested in the place, the time, and generally, sometimes it comes first a character, well, I could tell you how I came to write the Man in the Stone Cottage, if you like.
Yeah.
So this is my own journey. So when I was about 14 years old, I got my hands on a copy of Wuthering Heights, and I curled up in bed and read it. And absolutely, I literally can say I fell into another world. I fell into another world. And when I finished it, I was just stunned. So then I read Jane Eyre. I don't remember when I read that, but then I used to save my dollars and quarters and everything. I was going to go to England. Finally got there at the age of 23. Took a bus up from London to Haworth, where they lived. It was amazing, and fell into another world, one of my many worlds. And Haworth is amazing. It's amazing. So that's kind of how I do it. I get possessed. I'm really go into another world.
Wow. Yeah, what kind of research did you do on their home and on the sisters themselves? I learned so much about their lives from this book. Absolutely fascinating. And yeah, so did you look at anything beyond their novels? What sort of sources did you look at?
Well, of course, I read a bunch of biographies. I was astonished how many books I had bought and kept over the years. And I don't think I wanted to write a Brontë novel, and I think I might have mentioned it in like 2008 to my editor, who was not enthusiastic for some reason. So it wasn't 2 years later that I picked it up. But I had all these books. I just read them because I loved them. And then, of course, I journeyed there when I was 23. I journeyed there again, many years later with my husband. And by that time, I began to think I'd like to do this. And so I journeyed there again and stayed there in the town for like 4 days, just by myself. So it was just me and my imagination and the ghosts. And I would go to the house where they lived, which is the parsonage, is still there. It's very, very haunted. It's the same gravestones outside the house that were there when the sisters were there. Their clothes are there. Their notes are there. Their handkerchiefs are there. It's amazing. And I walked through these rooms, making little notes on my iPhone of everything I felt and heard, and that's a sensual kind of bathing in being quite alone there, except for the curators who wanted to come and help me, the wonderful docents, wonderful people, and it just started to just kind of like take on its own life inside me, and it took on its own life. I really didn't expect a lot of what came down to paper. I really was not. I wrote it in kind of a dream, I think, actually. I was promoting another book, and I just was like a dream.
Amazing. Did that cultivating that solitude, did that help you connect to Emily? I was wondering, was there a character or was there a sister who was the easiest to access their inner world, or was there one that was a challenge?
Well, there were three sisters living, Anne, Charlotte, and Emily. Anne I do the least with. I love Anne, but for some I couldn't. I did it from the points of view of Charlotte and Emily, so Anne had to fall a little bit more into the background. I really don't know. They both are parts of me. Charlotte kind of keeps everything together. She sees what they need to do. They've got to make something themselves. They've got to make money. Let's publish our poetry. Let's try to write novels. This was like almost as difficult to do then as it is now. It was really difficult. And she adored and tried to sort of not be exasperated with Emily. Emily, she's like another part of me. She's very much in her mind. She would go out for hours and walk on the moors, which is not an easy. I don't know if have you been to Haworth?
I haven't.
No, you must go. It's amazing into the moors. Well, even now, my friend who's a very good hiker went out on the moors and she got lost, even with the signposts. And at one point, there was a sign that said to Haworth, and then there was a sign pointing the other way that said to Haworth. Literally, absolutely. And so I did not, but when I was young, when I was 23 and I went there, I had a family, lovely Yorkshire family, take me out there on the moors. And I remember I didn't know you had to wear hiking boots. I didn't bring hiking boots from America. I had little royal blue pumps. I had them because they sank into the mud. And I looked down, and I'll never forget the horror of my shoe going right down into the ocean. So that was my exploring. So that was my research. A lot of books, a lot of other letters, and then actually going there and seeing all their things, and just feeling. I mean, I think a lot of people that go there, I think they go there to find them, and it's 176 or 77, 78 years. Since those books were published, Wuthering Heights, Jane Eyre, and the sisters were, of course, all died young, but their presence, my goodness, wow. It's an amazing experience.
Wow, my goodness. So let's talk a little bit about the titular man in the stone cottage. I'm really curious about him, particularly in regards to sort of where for you the line between research and creativity is. Where do you stay to what we know from sources, and where do you get creative and invent?
Well, the man, Jonathan, who is the shepherd she finds in a stone cottage in part of the moor that she keeps losing, is a totally Well, it's hard to say fictional. It's hard for me to say that because I wrote half the book from Emily's point of view. And from Emily's point of view, he's not fiction. He's real. Or is he? Even she doubts. At one point she says, "Are you real?" And that is the single biggest point of discussion when people discuss the book is this guy real? Or not real? And I think it lies somewhere in between. And that is not a logical answer. It is not a logical answer, but I think I was working on another book. I was published another book before this called The Boy in the Rain. And the characters were so vivid for me that I actually went to where they lived in England and burst into tears when I couldn't find them. They were, even though, of course, they would have been long gone to heaven. But it just was so real for me. I could not say this is fictional. So I'm really interested in that point where how much of things we make up, how much of things are because we see them that way, how much of things are because they are that way. I'm trying to explain it clearly and I'm running out of words.
No, I think you've done a fabulous job. I really love the ambiguity there and what that reveals about Emily because she is so isolated and so inside her own head. And I think another thing I wanted to talk about is the way that you depict women's lives in the past, and that balance between their obligations to the family and the restrictions that were placed on their movement and their agency, but then the way that women found to move around those boundaries and to, create moments of agency for themselves. So I'm really curious about yeah, sort of like, yeah, I'm not sure I had a question in there, but that was that was all struck me as very
I mean,
interesting.
this is really, it's just really, it, it's a little heartbreaking to look back and think, I mean, there was Charlotte and Emily, and they were brilliant women, but they had no dowries. There was no prospects of them marrying anyone. And there was very little they could do to earn money. They could be a governess, they could be a teacher. There weren't even any female nurses at that point. Very, very few. They couldn't be a servant. They were highly educated by their father. Um, they needed to marry an educated man or they would have been lost. I mean, the opportunities to be themselves very, very small. And I think one of the only things that Charlotte was the one who pushed everybody really is become professional writers and we'll make some money then. And even if we don't marry, we'll all stay home together. We'll be allowed to do that. We won't have to go out to these places, these houses where the mistress of the house treats her governess like an ignorant servant when the governess can run rings around her. I think it's really a lot of Charlotte's letters are very angry. I don't blame her for being angry. They did find a way, sort of. They didn't live very long, but they did find a way to express themselves in their writing. They found something. I was really, I mean, as interesting as it was, I would not want to be a woman in the past. No way. No way. And then if you married, your husband was absolutely in control of you. He could actually beat you if you wanted to. He controlled all your money. If he was horrible to you, well, in Anne Brontë, the third sister's Tenant of Wildfell Hall was a very shocking book because in that a woman takes her child and runs away from her abusive, drunken, drug-addicted husband, runs away and tries to make another life for herself. And this was radical in those days. Even Charlotte was shocked by this behavior of the characters in her Gentle Sisters book.
Yeah, you can really see in their writing and in your book the way that their writing, was a response to their material circumstances, but also allowed them to express themselves and to have a little bit of agency in this world that restricted them so highly.
I forgot that I'm supposed to let everybody know what my book cover looks like. And I'm so this was done by the house designer of my publisher, who's quite a young woman. I don't think she's 25, and she does the most beautiful covers. And I think she absolutely captured the essence of the book.
Yeah, it is absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, I think it's really, really beautiful.
So yeah, thank you so much for joining us to come and talk about your novel. It was absolutely lovely.
Thank you so much. Is there anything else I can tell you? Time has passed so fast.
Yeah. Well, I
Yeah.
guess the one question I always like to end on is what do you have planned? What is on your writerly horizon? Are you writing anything right now?
I write in the most crazy way. I'll begin a book, I'll stop it, I'll find it 4 years later, I'll work a little on it. I say, not this book, put it away. So I now am facing about 6 or 7 books, which are either have complete drafts or just 10,000 words on them. And so I had to choose which one. And
Oh.
I've not entirely chosen yet. So I'll be surprised. I'll surprise myself when I find out.
Oh, it's interesting. Well, Godspeed. Happy writing, and thank
Thank
you
you
for
so much.
taking.
Thanks for having me, Jen. It's been lovely.
Thank you. All right, and listeners, please check out The Man in the Stone Cottage. It's available as we speak, and it will continue to be available when you hear this. So head to your favorite bookstore or library, wherever you like to go for your books. Okay, it is time to close this chapter. We'll see you next time.
It's time to close this chapter of Turn the Page. Join us for the next episode.